I left the household for 5 years, retreating to a temple to pray for my mother-in-law's health. When I returned, my husband had already taken a concubine, his new wife bearing a young child, their family warm and whole. My children despised me, believing I had eloped with a wandering Taoist, disgracing the family. The world spat upon me, calling me shameless, saying I deserved to be drowned in a pig cage as a warning to all women. I wanted to beat the grievance drum, to cry out my innocence, but it was my own mother-in-law and husband who tightened the rope around my neck and cast my body into a well, leaving me in pieces, my name eternally stained. When I opened my eyes again, I returned to the night before that false Taoist ever set foot in our manor. I sharpened my blade until it gleamed, preparing to offer my mother-in-law a severed head dripping with blood. I was reborn on the eve of the night she forced me to climb Mount Fanine to chant scriptures and pray. The night was black, the wind howled, and each gust lashed against the curtains, making them snap and crack like whips. Xiao Man, my maid, shivered as she carried a bowl of medicine, muttering, "The old madam is gravely ill, yet the steward does not summon the imperial physician. Instead, he rushes to prepare a carriage to leave the city. Unless, outside the walls lives some hidden divine physician I have never heard of, worth braving the storm for." In my past life, the same scene unfolded. But then, blinded by worry for my ailing mother-in-law, I myself fell ill with cold, my body weakened, and I did not think deeper. I never imagined that my one moment of carelessness would destroy my life, and doom my 2 young children. My mother-in-law had no illness. Outside the city, no miracle physician waited. The man the steward brought was nothing but a false Taoist, a swindler who preyed on gullible households. He took silver from my mother-in-law and husband, and before all eyes proclaimed that I bore a fate that harmed my kin, that her illness could not be cured because of me. To avert disaster, I must go alone to distant Mount Fanine, chanting day and night for 5 years. My mother-in-law knelt and wept, my husband invoked filial duty with cold eyes, and I had no choice but to depart in the dead of night. I did not even have time to whisper farewell to my children. The Taoist claimed my presence would curse them, forbidding me to see them one last time. 5 years passed. My longing for home grew unbearable. But no one from the manor came to fetch me. At last, I made my own way back to the capital. What greeted me was no longer my home. My husband, Lu Luo, hurled insults, calling me shameless, accusing me of running away with the Taoist. He flung a divorce letter in my face. My children, hidden behind the new wife, Lu Yutong, screamed in hatred. To give birth yet not to raise, how are you fit to be our mother? You loved the Taoist, you wanted your freedom. Then you should never have returned to shatter our lives. We have no such disgraceful mother. From this day, life and death between us are severed. Before I could speak, I was cast out of the Lu household. Only then did I learn from others that the Lus had never once spoken of Mount Fanine. Instead, they told the world that I, Ji Su Tang, had abandoned my children, colluded with a Taoist to steal the family's silver, and fled into the night. Wanting to reclaim justice, I carried my hatred and went to strike the grievance drum. But before I could even touch it, someone gagged me and dragged me into a dark alley. My mother-in-law fingered her prayer beads, smiling faintly at me. 5 years have passed, and you have grown no wiser. You left the manor, what reason do you have to return? She hated me all the more for my lowly birth, despising that I had neither virtue nor talent, yet for 10 years had sat in the seat of mistress that should have belonged to her niece. Heaven turns a blind eye, so I shall act on heaven's behalf, drag you down to your true form. At that moment, a white silk cloth fell from behind, ending my life. Only as my soul left my body did I see the man called my husband, his face twisted with disgust. He brushed his hands as though shaking off filth. To keep her is disaster. Only by cutting the root can we have lasting peace. She should have stayed at Mount Fanine quietly. But she insisted on returning. Who else can she blame? My body was thrown into a dry well. My spirit was shackled within the Lu household, forced to watch as Lu Yutong, under the guise of love, destroyed my children. She indulged my son, Lu Jiji, letting him consort with lowlifes, drown himself in wine, gamble away his fortune. In a drunken brawl, he was stabbed to death in a narrow alley. His corpse lay 3 days before being found. She deceived my daughter, Lu Qinghuan, marrying her to a man whose polished exterior hid utter uselessness. On the night she gave birth, concubines plotted against her. Mother and child died together, eyes closing in bitter unwillingness. The world pitied them, saying my children resembled me, wicked at heart, thus fated for bad ends. Others praised Lu Yutong as virtuous and kind, claiming heaven rewarded her with blessings through her own children. But I knew the truth, she bought every word with silver, making sure my children, even in death, bore only disgrace. I wept until my tears ran blood, yet could not lay a finger on her. And then, when I opened my eyes, I was back before it all began. If they claimed there was a hidden divine physician, then why not follow and see for myself? I turned, hatred filling my chest, and sharpened my blade until it gleamed. Outside the city, in a small bamboo-fenced courtyard, the steward handed 500 taels of silver to the false Taoist. Through the fence, the glint of a short knife passed into his hand. The old madam's meaning, you understand, don't you? Once it's done, return for the other 500. The Taoist's shifty eyes darted as he pocketed silver and blade, fawning. Rest assured. It is but leading her outside the city, then sending her on the Yellow Springs Road. This poor Taoist will not fail you. So the so-called Mount Fanning was only an excuse. What they truly wanted was my life. Yet his fortune was poor. In my past life, as he escorted me out of the city, his enemies ambushed him. To save his own life, he fled with the silver. His newly accepted apprentice, ignorant of the scheme, truly delivered me to Mount Fanning, giving me a chance to survive and return. Xiao Man, having overheard the plot, trembled with fury and disbelief. Madame gave everything for this household, never a selfish thought, yet they destroyed her life. Such heartless fiends, they will meet retribution. Foolish girl. Retribution is not heaven's to give, it must be seized by one's own hands. In my past life, I waited for heaven's justice. It never came. This life, I shall repay every debt myself. Xiao Man, have you ever killed? She shook her head. Her hand was untrained. She struck 3 times, none fatal. The blade, bestowed by my mother-in-law, was indeed fine steel, sharp enough to shear iron. The false Taoist clutched at his wounds, flesh flayed, crying in agony. Miss, spare me. Whatever the grievance, I'll give you 500 taels for my life. No. I bared my teeth in a cold smile, white as bone. His terror made him drop the bundle of silver he clutched. My knife fell. His body writhed in pain, and only then did I breathe easier. What are you afraid of? Weren't you skilled at divination? Why didn't you foresee that I am Ji Su Tang? Why didn't you see today as your great calamity, your death? I dragged the bloodied blade across his face. Each pass made him convulse in terror. Afraid. Good. When you invoked heaven to condemn others, did you think how they feared? How they lost sleep, lost peace. When you posed as a Taoist, chanting scripture while ruining reputations, did you think whether your victims had any path left to live? You never thought. Men like you, only death can make you repent. At last, he saw it in my eyes, I would never let him go. With his legs broken by Xiao Man and his arms hacked apart by me, he crawled inch by inch toward the door. Across the courtyard stretched a trail of blood, grotesque and glaring. But no matter how he crawled, I blocked his path. Again and again, he collapsed, tears and snot streaming, wailing in terror. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. Please spare me. I won't dare again, never again. I swear I will never touch another innocent girl, never cheat another soul, all right? His figure was filth incarnate, mud and blood mixing into a stench that made one nauseous. I shook my head. Only one answer, impossible. Then a single thrust pierced straight into his chest. 30 years of swindling, how many households ruined, husbands and wives torn apart. This life was long overdue for him to repay. Shao Man, you see, killing is not difficult. What is difficult is seeing through a human heart. This life, the blade rests in my hand. As for people's hearts, I need not divine them anymore. I will cut them open and see for myself. The cur had yet to die, but already he could no longer harm me. Looking at the Taoist gasping, froth bubbling from his lips, I smiled. Not yet. Tomorrow night, I will take your head, on time. He was stuffed into a dog cage and hung above a hunter's pit. The rope that held it was thin. Any harsh movement, it would snap, and the cage would plunge into sharpened stakes below, where many corpses already lay. Call to heaven, heaven would not hear. Cry to earth, earth would not answer. Trembling, forced to survive in fear of each breath, this was no different from the countless women he had destroyed. Now he too would taste it. And the one who hired him, my kind mother-in-law, need only wait one more day. Then he would greet her personally. The next afternoon, my mother-in-law feigned worsening illness, sending the nursemaid to summon me. I powdered my face ghostly pale, and deliberately invited the eldest daughter of the Liu family, together with Jiang Yu, my father-in-law's adopted daughter, to watch the spectacle. Liu Yutong clung to my mother-in-law's arm, casting me a contemptuous glance. Sister Ji arrives so late. If one didn't know better, they might think you displeased with your aunt. My mother-in-law, who had been smiling, instantly darkened her face. Married into the Liu family all these years, yet you have no sense of decorum. Today, you shall kneel. Her words cut off in her throat. Behind me stood the elders of every courtyard. When General Liu was alive, he had set the rule, daughters-in-law were never to be abused. But he died early. My mother-in-law, bitter and cruel, had long forgotten the family rights, especially toward a daughter-in-law she despised like me. Seeing the elders' embarrassed faces, she coughed twice, feigning weakness, and said faintly, "This old body, ever since the general passed, has lain sick 3 years, never improving." My son, filial as he is, sought a Taoist of great cultivation to examine me. Even if it means death, we must try once. So I asked you here to witness. I pretended hesitation. He is still an outsider. To let him into the inner court, hardly proper. Unless. There is no unless. From behind my mother-in-law, Liu Yutong lowered her eyes, voice weak. Aunt is gravely ill. As her elder cousin, Sister Ji should show filial devotion, ensure she suffers no disappointment. I, though less close, know this much, if it benefits her illness, it must be tried. Besides, with so many of us present, no rule is broken. I inclined my head obediently, then let my voice turn, my smile cold. On the matter of filial devotion, cousin, you are hardly lacking. When my father died, before I was a month old, I fell ill from grief with my mother. For 3 years I moved into her quarters, serving by her sickbed day and night, never returning once to my own chambers. The very mat you stand on was where I lay for 3 years. And you, cousin, during those same years, stayed at my mother's side, yet never once went home to see your own father when he lay dying. With such devotion, why would you need to humble yourself so low? Liu Yutong's face blanched. She could not understand. The Ji Su Tang she had always seen as meek and submissive now tore her mask away in front of all. Had those 3 years in the Liu family truly been out of filial piety? One who would not even tend to her own father, what right did she have to preach loyalty and virtue in the Liu household? She guarded this place not out of genuine care, but for her own future in the Liu family's inner court. For her cousin, my husband, Liu Luo. But the Liu family's rules were strict. No concubines allowed. She clung shamelessly, hoping my mother-in-law would break that rule on her behalf. The elders of the Liu clan had long seen through it. Their gazes toward my mother-in-law and Liu Yutong were laced with open contempt. Without the slightest courtesy, they scolded directly. As for filial devotion, all of us in the Liu family have witnessed Su Tang's heart. The late general had keen eyes, he never once chose wrongly. Su Tang, the Liu family is well pleased with you. And if the young lady of the Liu family wishes to speak of filial duty, she should begin with her own parents first. Besides, the rules of our Liu household are not like the petty customs of your Liu clan. Liu Yutong was struck speechless, swallowing her hatred with tears shimmering in her eyes, pretending she had suffered unbearable humiliation. My mother-in-law too had lost all face. She glared at me, then hastily smoothed things over. Filial piety need not be measured in depths. As long as the heart is true, it is enough. The Taoist has already arrived, for the sake of my body, let him take a look. Liu Yutong seized her reprieve, breathing easier, yet she still cast me a venomous glare before signaling to the Taoist. She slipped him a subtle look of understanding, her lips curving in smug satisfaction. What she did not see, beneath my handkerchief, my lips curved as well, like a crescent moon. Those who seek their own death, can never return. The Taoist standing before us was tall, refined in appearance, his air unworldly. He looked nothing like the sham charlatan from last night. He raised his voice slowly, reenacting the same performance as years before. The old madam's fate is plagued by ill stars, afflicted by a kin-star conflict, thus her sickness lingers without cure. And the star that clashes with her life, is the horse, the sign of Wu. My mother-in-law drew a sharp breath, and at once her eyes fell upon me. All around, eyes turned the same way. Liu Yutong even gasped aloud. Born under the sign of the horse. Isn't that Sister Ji? She served Aunt 3 years, yet Aunt grew worse and worse. Could it be? She suddenly covered her mouth, feigning horror at her own reckless words. Presumptuous. One elder, unable to stomach her act, slammed a teacup to pieces in fury. Yet my mother-in-law remained unmoved. No need to panic. Since this is a master of the way, naturally he has a method of resolution. I feigned hesitation, bowing my head as if reluctant. It is true, I was born in the year of the horse, same as my husband. The Taoist pinched his fingers in calculation, then asked for my birth characters. I recited them smoothly. He nodded, then shook his head gravely, turning to my mother-in-law. It would be best if the lord of this house were summoned. For such a fate to clash with all 6 kin, none can escape its reach. Eager to take my life, my mother-in-law complied at once, ordering that Lu Luo be brought. He cared little for such rituals, but faced with his mother's insistent gaze and Liu Yutong's bashful glances, he restrained his temper and answered every question the Taoist posed. After the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, the Taoist clasped his hands behind his back and declared. As expected, this fate of clashing kin is no small matter. To resolve it, the old madam must endure some pain. My mother-in-law, believing the trap was sprung, thumped her chest in false resolve, swearing. For the Liu family, for my kin, speak of cutting flesh, even of giving my life, it matters not. Taoist, tell me, how is this crisis to be broken? Though the elders wished to intervene, her determination left them no room to meddle. The false Taoist sighed, masking himself with airs of profundity. To dispel this calamity, the one who bears the fate of clashing kin must journey to Mount Fannin, live in abstinence, chant scriptures for 5 years, and cleanse the karmic debts of past lives. Only then can this life be safe. Otherwise, the old madam may not survive the year. When life itself was at stake, none dared to object. The room grew so silent one could hear a pin drop. The most anxious, as expected, was Liu Yutong. She collapsed to her knees before me, clutching at my skirt, tears raining down. Sister Ji, I beg you, for the aunt, for the Liu family, go to Mount Fannin. The general has passed. In this household, only aunt and cousin remain to uphold us. If anything befalls them, what will become of the Liu family? Your birth was not your fault. Yet aunt and the Lius suffer calamity because of it. Please, for aunts' love, cousins' care, and the Liu family shelter, save them. Long have I wished to take your place, but alas, I was born under the sign of the snake. My heart would, but fate cannot. Lu Luo saw the woman in his heart weeping like pear blossoms in the rain, and his insides twisted. He gently supported Lu Yutong, soothing her tenderly. Your intention is enough. As long as you accompany mother often, that is already filial. But the warmth in his eyes vanished the moment he turned to me, only cold indifference remained. For mother's health, even if only for show, you should go to Mount Fanine. Though I cannot bear it, as her child, if you cannot do even this small filial duty, then you are truly unfilial. Prepare the carriage at once. Send her on the road quickly, so mother may soon recover. The eldest young lady of the house nodded in approval, praising my husband's great sense of duty, his filial piety bright enough to shame sun and moon. One by one they urged me. Though harsh, of all virtues, filial piety stands first. For mother's sake, you should try. It is only 5 years. When you return, all the Liu family will remember your devotion. In the capital, who could compare to you? Perhaps the Liu family may even receive a plaque inscribed with the word filial. As mistress of the household, it is your responsibility to devote yourself to the Liu family. Surely you will not refuse. Lu Yutong, convinced of her victory, dabbed her eyes delicately, squeezing out a trace of pity. Sister Ji understands righteousness best. She has always been most filial to aunt. Of course, she will not refuse. But once more pressed under the banner of filial duty, I only kept silent, offering no reply. My mother-in-law grew anxious. Forcing herself upright, she prepared to strike the fatal blow. For the Liu household, I will kneel and beg Su Tang to uphold righteousness. To drive me to death, the entire family united. But the false Taoist suddenly broke. When did I ever say the one who harms her kin is this lady? The entire hall froze. He did not look at me, but turned to Lu Yutong. If the young miss truly wishes to substitute, there is a way. Only, before your sincerity, let the son of this family first show some good faith. His sudden turn made Lu Yutong leap up, shrieking. What do you mean? The woman of the Ji family is not her. Why target me? You took the silver and did nothing, what do you want? Seeing the astonished stares of everyone present, she stiffened, forcing a crooked smile as she sat back down, adding awkwardly. After all, I was not born in the year of Wu. No matter my sincerity, aunt's heart may not be at ease. Sister Ji's filial piety is known to all. And she is the mistress of the Liu household. How could she refuse to fulfill filial duty to aunt and devotion to the Liu family? The Taoist chuckled darkly. Truly, your heart shines brighter than the moon. But have you forgotten? Those born in the year of Wu are not only this lady, but also the old madam's son, your cousin. The faces of Lu Yutong and Lu Luo drained of blood, stricken with horror. The Taoist pointed toward me. Look at her, pale face, black miasma clouding her brow. These are signs of decay under suppression. If even the young and strong are harmed so gravely, then for an aged body near the grave, is it any wonder? My advice, decide quickly. Do not wait until the household is ruined and then regret. At this, my mother-in-law erupted in rage. Her plot had failed, and worse, it dragged her son into danger. Furious, she slammed her hand against the bed, shouting. Shameless! Someone, throw him out. Throw him out now. Where did this fraud come from, daring to deceive in the Liu household? Out. Get out, cough, cough. Her fury sent her into a fit of choking coughs. Lu Yutong too gnashed her teeth, eyes blazing. So you have some trickery, yet all you spout is nonsense. To slander my cousin, who bribed you. As she spoke, her eyes flicked deliberately toward me. But I remained unmoved, watching calmly as the Taoist stepped closer to her. Miss, your fate carries misfortune. all with blood ties to you cannot escape calamity. Better protect yourself. With that, heedless of Lu Yutong's trembling fury, he casually tossed back the 500 taels of silver, planting a seed of doubt in every heart. If you will not listen, then none can be saved. Old madam, this poor Taoist dares not accept this silver. Bribing a Taoist to falsify a divination. That silver had come from my mother-in-law. All at once, realization dawned across the hall. The Taoist was about to leave, but Lu Luo, who had endured in silence, finally lost control and stepped forward to block his path. You slander my mother and now want to walk away. Who gave you the silver and told you to ruin my reputation? If you won't confess, then follow me to the magistrate. The Taoist curled his lips in a faint smile, leaned close, and whispered. The vengeful spirit in the dry well at the back courtyard says her death was unjust. Shall I help you ask why she died? Lu Luo's face drained of color, no longer daring to stop him. Because the body in that well was Xiao Yu, the little maid who had once witnessed his affair with Lu Yutong, only to be silenced forever. But one truth remained, the Taoist was a fraud, yes, but his real identity. He was a theater master, hired with a fortune by Jiangyu for no other purpose than to protect me. After the false Taoist left, the faces of the gathered were a mixture of expressions. Only Jiangyu sat calmly, teacup in hand, raising her brows at me. I cast her a glance, signaling her to stay calm and enjoy the play. My mother-in-law tried to salvage her son's dignity, gritting her teeth as she cursed the Taoist as a shameless trickster who ought to be reported to the authorities. She claimed only her son's mercy had spared his life. The others, of course, echoed her words. But in every heart, judgment was already passed. Stories of the old madam favoring her niece, of her tormenting her daughter-in-law, of Lu Luo suppressing his legal wife while consorting with his cousin, these had long slipped through the walls of the household. Especially the tale of a daughter-in-law forced to mount Fanine, already adapted into street ballads, whispered by storytellers throughout the capital. My mother-in-law beat her chest in fury. But just then, the steward arrived, carrying a box. He said it was a grand gift, delivered by name to the old madam. Still fuming, she opened it without thought. Out rolled a bloodied head. The old madam fainted on the spot. Naturally, I did not spare effort in reporting the matter. With so many witnesses, the steward's crime was clear, bribed to plot against the mistress, failing, he turned to murder instead. The Taoist's severed head was meant as an offering to win her favor. But his corpse still bore the silver and tokens the steward had given him. In no time, the capital was in an uproar. At the shamelessness of the Lu family's matron. At the disgrace of Lu Luo. The old madam burned through every connection to suppress the scandal. But Lu Luo's indecent conduct, trusting in sorcery, suppressing his legal wife, cost him dearly. The idle post his father, the old general, had fought a lifetime to secure was stripped from him. And I too knew how to shut the doors and let the dogs out. The Lu family, unable to endure the shame, quietly sent a small sedan chair to fetch Lu Yutong away through the back gate. They said she wept like pear blossoms in the rain, punished to kneel in the ancestral hall, copying texts for days. Of course, all of this was by my hand, silver well spent to buy the tide of public opinion. But using the Lu family's own wealth to build my future, how could I not be satisfied? Jiangyu, seated at my side, her gaze carried a trace of admiration. I never imagined you possessed such means, such spirit. Do you truly intend mutual destruction? Compared to my past life, torn from my children, dying without closing my eyes. This was only a trivial punishment, not even worth mentioning. I smiled, answering lightly. This is only the beginning. Just wait, the play has only started. Because what I want is their lives. Last night, when I killed the false Taoist, she had seen it with her own eyes. She even praised my steady hand upon the blade. But instead I held her tightly, weeping in her arms. She thought I was merely frightened, never knowing. After my past life, how deep my hatred ran. The blood-soaked head of the Taoist, truly, it was Jiang Yu who severed it for me. She never asked why, only shielded me with all her heart. Then she is the one I must spend my life protecting. The wolf-hearted Liu family deserves nothing but a death without burial. Jiang Yu and I were both orphans the old general of the Liu household had brought back from the battlefield. Her father, luring the enemy deep, was torn apart beyond recognition. My father, shielding the general, was pierced through the heart by an arrow, dying on the spot. She inherited her father's spear techniques, one thrust, unstoppable, unmatched among 10,000. The old general trained her himself, placing his hopes upon her. I, illiterate, grew up living under others' roofs, always cautious, always restrained, never stepping out of line. And yet even so, the old general praised me for being steady and obedient, then married me off to that useless Lu Luo. But lives can change. A woman who commands on the battlefield may win 100 victories, yet in the capital, she is only a bargaining chip for marriage, judged and chosen by others. Jiang Yu, molded by the general's hand, bore his upright manner. Her conduct was forthright, her words bold, her bearing vigorous, so unlike the delicate young ladies of the capital. But the noblewomen cared only for her low birth, unworthy of entering a great house. They sneered at her sun-darkened skin, weathered by sand and steel, unfit to please a husband's eyes. They asked whether she had studied the classics of feminine virtue, whether she knew how to manage a household, whether she was worthy of presiding over an inner court. Her glorious campaigns, her proud spear, her righteous, unyielding heart. All branded as flaws. The world pitied her for growing up among men in the army, saying her reputation was tainted. They pushed her aside, leaving her name on the spare list of daughters-in-law. The old general, enraged, dismissed every matchmaker, overturning tables, smashing chairs, cursing the blindness of the world. Beneath their brocades and silks, they were nothing but beasts gnawing carrion. Not wishing the old general to shorten his years in anger, she carelessly accepted marriage into a minor clan in Jinling, becoming the principal wife of the Li family's second son. While the old general lived, they dared not mistreat her. Her life was tolerable. But 3 years ago, when he died, her days grew harder with each passing year. The inner court was no battlefield. Loyalty, filial piety, propriety, and righteousness broke that once proud flower. Not wishing to disgrace the Liu family, she could only endure in silence. This time, using the excuse of visiting her mother-in-law, she had fled the back courtyard crowded with pregnant concubines of the Li family. But she did not know, 2 years later, she would die in that same courtyard. There were no blades, no slaughter, yet the cruelty there outstripped any battlefield. A woman who grew up among spears would, in the end, fall quietly to the hands of her husband and his concubines. Jiang Yu, disaster cannot be escaped. The general had wished us both a life of fulfillment. But not by enduring humiliation, bowing and breaking ourselves to please. With his temper, if he knew the ends we had come to, his last act before closing his eyes would have been to dye his robe crimson. Life is long. A touch of ruthlessness to protect oneself, what of it? I had already spent one lifetime proving this. Endless patience only leads to endless defeat. If one cannot stand on her own, she can only wait for death. You aided me. Then I must repay you. She sipped her tea, her voice cool. I merely found the old hag's malice distasteful, nothing more. My mother-in-law, having failed to harm me, turned her fury upon me for damaging her reputation. In heavy snow, she forced me to kneel beneath the corridor, calling it family discipline. A scalding bowl of medicine, her trembling hands spilled it straight upon me. Even in her dreams, she woke me to serve, to pour tea and water. But this time, I let her torment me in front of all. Standing in snow until frost seized my body, I deliberately collapsed during the family banquet. The burns upon my arm, I revealed before kin and guests, fanning rumors of her cruelty until they spread unchecked. When ordered to serve tea in the night, I overturned the entire pot upon her, sending the courtyard into chaos, making the entire Lu family scorn her as petty, as vicious, as one who abused her daughter-in-law. Rumors spread wider and wider, until even Lu Luo could no longer bear it. His face darkened as he quietly warned his mother not to stir up more trouble. As for me, I of course remained generous, never quarreling, like a loyal dog at her side. Day after day, I served her by the sickbed, spoon by spoon offering bowls of poison disguised as medicine. By the Dragon Boat Festival, she no longer had the strength to sit upright. All matters of the household fell into my hands. Jiang Yu held a dagger, running her fingers along its edge, her face steeped in loneliness. On the battlefield, you could never match me. But in the inner court, not even worthy to carry your shoes. These soft knives, I cannot withstand them. I shook my head, bitterness filling my chest. No one is born knowing. We only learn after suffering enough pain, tasting enough lessons. A single day of peace means nothing. Doesn't the art of war say, strike the snake at 7 inches? I know that too. Her dagger stilled. She frowned, staring hard at me. I only smiled, reaching to smooth a stray strand of her hair, just as when we first came to the Lu household, sharing one narrow bed. Then, how free we had been. Why let birth in the inner court bind us for life? At Dragon Boat Festival, Lu Yutong used the excuse of visiting mother-in-law to step once more into the Lu gates. I knew well, she and Lu Luo, if separated even a single day, were as though parted for 3 autumns. Even if only over a cup of tea, they would steal away, whispering, chasing stolen joy. But tonight, it would be the last time they knew pleasure. Xiao Man, I instructed softly, when the family banquet begins tonight, pass word through someone trustworthy. Say the young lady wishes to enjoy her blessing. After 3 rounds of wine, guests trickled away in small groups. Just then, the maid of the eldest daughter rushed in, whispering urgently into her mistress's ear. Her eyes chilled, a mocking smile curved her lips, and she turned a cold glare toward me. Very clever, little sister. Mother-in-law bedridden, Lu Luo disgraced, she poured all her hatred upon me. Now that she thought she had found my flaw, of course she would strike. You boast of order, of propriety. And yet, in father's favorite study, someone is committing filth. How will you explain this? She sneered, slamming the table. Those who had risen to leave halted mid-step, ears pricking for scandal. Feigning confusion, I looked back at her, my voice mild with doubt. Is that true? Perhaps the servants mistook what they saw. Father's study has always been locked, how could anyone enter? Her face hardened. Suddenly she leapt up, her tone sharp as steel. True or false, look once and it will be clear. Before I could answer, she had already rushed toward the back courtyard. I exchanged a glance with Jiang Yu, half in jest. If it disgusts you, don't follow. Her eyes glinted. I want to see. How disgusting can it be? When we feigned panic and hurried over, the wooden door had already been kicked open by the eldest daughter. Inside, 2 naked bodies entwined upon the desk. A scream tore the air, then they scrambled apart. But there was nothing to cover them. Their shame lay bare, and their faces were all too familiar. Not only disgusting, utterly nauseating. Jiang Yu shook her head, murmuring. Sickening. As for me, overcome with grief, losing all restraint, I lunged forward, seizing the hair of that adulterous pair, beating them half to death. Xiao Man, while pulling me back, pressed hard upon Lu Yutong's chest and back, leaving her writhing. By the time the 2 shameless faces were beaten beyond recognition, the clan elders ordered them dragged into the ancestral hall. Adultery, punishable by 80 strokes, and in heavy cases, drowning. The pair dared not confess. We were tricked. Someone lured us into the study. We had drunk too much, our minds clouded. I mistook my cousin for Su Tang. Wife, believe me. I had no affair with her. We were framed. Had this been days ago, perhaps someone might believe. But with rumors already blazing through the capital, no one believed them now. The clan head turned to me, asking how I wished to proceed. Wiping my tears, I answered softly. Our Lu family descends from generations of generals. Our forebears once aided the founding emperor to the throne. If not for that emperor's lust for a borderland spy, bringing her into his bed only to have our defense maps stolen, causing a near extinction of our clan, then grandfather would never have decreed, the Lu family's descendants shall never take concubines. Now that the evidence lay plain before all, I asked my husband a single question. Do you wish to enjoy the so-called blessing of both wife and concubine, and have your name erased forever from the Lu family register? Or will you accept punishment, sever ties with your cousin from this moment on, life and death no longer entangled? If Lu Luo truly had the resolve to abandon the clan and its generations of honor and wealth, he would never have thought to kill me merely to marry Lu Yutong. He looked at her several times in silence, then made his choice. My wife bore me children, and devotedly served at my mother's sickbed. With such deep affection, how could I betray her? As for cousin, it was nothing but a drunken mistake. I will grant her 1,000 taels of gold to ensure a lifetime of stability. He chose to cut the tail to save his own skin. Lu Yutong's tears streamed like rain. She shook her head violently, screaming in madness. No. No. You cannot treat me like this. Without a proper title, even if I return to the Lu house, the only road left is death. Cousin. You cannot be so heartless, you promised me. Cousin. Lu Luo raised his voice, cutting her cries. Life is long. Take care of yourself. Perhaps the future still holds a brighter path for you. His meaning was clear. If he preserved himself now, he might find a way to turn matters around later. Lu Yutong caught the hidden intent. At once she stifled her sobs, fell silent. Jiangyu, supporting me, dug her nails sharply into my arm. I understood Lu Luo's unspoken signal. Yet I cared little. Because I had never intended for either of them to live until that day. Covering my mouth, I wiped away tears, choking out sobs. My fate is bitter indeed. Jiangyu shot me a fierce glare, then dismissed me altogether. 50 strokes rained down. By the end, Lu Luo's flesh was torn, his body dripping with blood. His clothes clung, soaked red, his wounds so severe it would take at least 1 or 2 months to recover. When I delivered the news to mother-in-law, she spat blood on the spot. Heavens! Help! The madam is vomiting blood. I rushed forward, feigning frantic concern, fumbling to wipe her mouth, clumsily tearing out a handful of hair, even scraping her skin raw. Even the tea I offered her afterward was freshly boiled, scalding her lips and tongue. She writhed on the bed, her screams shrill and piercing, worse than a pig at slaughter. But by now, who would still believe her? Everyone merely thought it another petty trick to torment her daughter-in-law. I smiled sweetly, gently whispering, Mother must cherish her health. If anger harms her body, then cousin being sent to a nunnery, shaved bald and cloistered in a mud hut for life, will surely trouble her heart all the more. At that, mother-in-law spat another mouthful of blood. Yet even so, Lu Yutong refused to yield. She bribed the eldest daughter to carry tales, sold her jade bracelet to hire storytellers, twisting truth into slander. That I was narrow-minded, jealous of mother-in-law and husband's love for her, so I schemed to ruin their names. The eldest daughter sipped tea, her eyes full of disdain. If you could show a little generosity, bow your head and admit fault, restore my brother's honor, and then accept cousin into the household as concubine to fulfill my aunt's wish. Then, for the sake of your 2 children, I would overlook your missteps. If not, no matter how clever your tricks in the inner court, you will not escape the Lu family. I have hundreds, thousands of ways to see you disgraced. Jiangyu glanced at me anxiously. The eldest daughter's husband's family stood at the height of power, courted by all the great clans. Compared to them, the waning Lu family was nothing. But I, as mistress of the Liu household, was not so easily cowed by a married daughter. I did not take her words to heart. Indeed, she had given me a lesson. In seeking help from my father's old comrades to place Liu Jiji into the best academy, I had to leave the capital. But when our carriage reached the outskirts, a band of riders suddenly stormed forth. They did not target us, but slashed directly at the horse. The beast screamed, bolted wildly, dragging the carriage for hundreds of meters before it crashed into a great stone by the road. The coach shattered to pieces. All three of us were injured. When the thugs tried to carve scars upon my face, Jiang Yu came thundering in on horseback, her entire figure aflame, robes whipping in the wind. Her crimson-tasseled spear swept out like a Dayan breaking from the sea. Within a few exchanges, the ruffians scattered in terror. But Bai He, the maid who had followed me for 3 years, had her leg snapped. Sweat poured from her brow like rain. Jiang Yu sheathed her spear, her voice icy. The Wang clan of Linen are famed horsemen and swordsmen. And Liu Yonghe's father is none other than the prefect of Linen. This was the lesson the eldest daughter sought to teach me, her way of forcing me to bow my head. I pressed a hand against my bleeding wound, my eyes holding only a glacial killing intent. But I was never one to suffer in silence. I remembered every debt. She had touched those who belonged to me, then she would never know peace again. Mother-in-law knew clearly who had orchestrated it, yet she clutched my children close, sneering. Look at your mother. A woman indeed, just one trip outside and she returns battered and disgraceful. Strangers would think she must have done something shameful, suffering heaven's retribution. When grandmother is ill, these poor children have no one to rely on. Liu Jiji's face darkened, about to speak for me. But I only shook my head, stopping him. Later he asked, "Why will mother not tell grandmother the truth, that you were hurt because of me? You poured out your heart for us. Why not let her know?" I smiled, adjusted his robe, pulling him close, realizing he already stood at my chest. As long as you and Qing Huan know your mother's heart, that is enough. What others think, I do not care. Even if they knew I gave my all for you, would they not find some other excuse to curse me? There are times when words are useless. One must simply do well with what lies in one's own hands. Someday, someone will claim justice. And the task in my hands was to ensure not one of them left this world alive. A month later, I wept bitterly as I delivered the news to mother-in-law. Mother, tell me, why must elder sister suffer such cruel fate? Why did her wretched father-in-law stoop to embezzlement? If he must steal, could he not cover his tracks? Now he has been exposed, his household uprooted by the governor, exiled to Lingnan, forbidden for all generations to return to the capital. Mother, tell me, will she ever return in this lifetime? Behind my feigned sobs, laughter bloomed. The denunciation letter was mine. The crucial evidence, my doing. I had lived one lifetime before. Changing a destiny was no more than turning a hand. Rely on the eldest daughter's protection. She could no longer even protect herself. Rumor said cousin had caught a chill, coughing blood. The Liu family had not even sent a servant to visit. My husband fidgeted like an ant on hot coals. But his festering wounds left him bedbound, how could he save her? Of course, her consumption was not without my hand. Mother-in-law nearly went mad, choking on blood, unable to breathe. Her hands clawed the bed frame, her eyes bulging, her legs twitching, desperate for me to save her. The poison flared precisely on cue. I smiled faintly, leaned to her ear, whispering, "To vomit blood and fury and die, does it not feel unbearable? I entered this house at 16, served you loyally for years, never once strayed. And yet your heart was iron, never once true to me. For a mere niece, you sought my death. When you dragged your own daughter into the water, you should have known, retribution would come. Now everything you suffer, is heaven's answer. Walk slowly on the road to the Yellow Springs. Your son and your niece will soon join you. While she still clung to breath, I summoned the entire household to her bedside. I wept and wailed, choking with grief. Mother, upon hearing the dreadful news of elder sister's exile, her illness worsened at once. She said, if she had known cousin carried such a cursed fate, bringing ruin upon her son, skin torn, flesh shredded, she would never have softened her heart, never have brought that orphan girl into this home. She declared, if my husband refuses to repent, if he continues to entangle himself with cousin, ignoring his mother's words, then let heaven hear her oath, his arms will break, his legs will shatter, he will never meet a good end. Her throat rattled, as if to affirm my words. The room erupted in whispers. Voices piled blame upon Lu Yutong, branding her a disaster in human form, the bane of the Lu family's peace. Some spat curses. Even if she dies, it is no pity at all. My mother-in-law died of a heart attack, unable to utter a single word. By the time my husband was carried in, she had already breathed her last. Of course. That was my doing. To die alone on her bed, without a soul to see to her remains. This was the ending I had long prepared for that benevolent old woman. Jiang Yu stared at me, stunned beyond words. She had never imagined that I, once meek and gentle, would truly dare to take a life to still the wrath in my heart. I smiled faintly, my voice airy as drifting clouds. When two armies clash, if you do not kill, you are the one who dies. The inner court is no different, Jiang Yu. A battlefield. The foolish and the weak have only one road, death. She gazed at me in a daze. I, meanwhile, donned mourning garb, wept bitterly in the spirit hall, and with trembling hands cast my husband's reconciliation letter into the flames. In the June rains, Lu Luo disregarded his festering wounds, insisting on fulfilling filial rites, escorting his mother's coffin. Before outsiders, I put on the act of anxious persuasion. Yet he only shoved me violently to the ground. Do not play the hypocrite. Had you obeyed and gone to Mount Fanine, would my mother have died? Would cousin and I have fallen so low? It is all your fault, wench. You should pay with your life. His palm crashed across my face, leaving Jiang Yu frozen in shock. I hid my face, pretending terror, sobbing aloud. Fortunately, the clan elders could endure no more. They barked coldly. Do you even know who bears the true fate of calamity in this house? Did you heed a single word of the Taoists' counsel? Now disaster has struck, and you think only to cast blame. If you were truly filial, you should have borne the burden yourself from the start. For the sake of your grief, we shall not punish you by clan law. Reflect upon your sins. He who refuses good counsel will suffer heaven's lash. 3 days after his mother was buried, Lu Luo's wounds, soaked by rain, began to rot. Fever seized him, leaving him half delirious. I pressed a sweet delicacy into Jiang Yu's hand, chuckling. Patience in suffering is no loss. Revenge simply takes time. Look how anxious you are. When you sprinkle poison over his wounds at midnight, one might think you care deeply for him. She turned away, her voice low. I only sought to vent your fury. Now you make me the butt of your jest. All right, all right. My dear sister, I know your heart. Oh, and by the way, your husband's kin came to call. I sent them all away. I summoned an imperial physician in the old general's name. The man shook his head gravely. The rot has reached the bone. Only by cutting away the foul flesh and pairing medicines can his life be preserved. To survive, what is a little carving of flesh? A pity, the anesthetic had no effect on him. 3 bowls he drank, yet still he writhed in torment. Because I had exchanged it for a draught of clarity. There are those the opium cannot dull, the physician explained, but the patient's life is slipping. Madam must decide quickly. Feigning sorrow, I summoned 8 strong men to pin his limbs, gagged his mouth, and scraped away flesh from bone while he screamed. For your life, husband, do not blame me for my cruelty. I sat in the great hall, sipping tea, listening to his shrieks each time the knife bit skin. Never had my heart felt lighter. Pour more tea, I said softly. Let us enjoy it slowly. Jiang Yu shot me a cold glance. Truly, the heart of a woman is the most venomous. My hand paused mid-sip. Oh. If I recall, someone recently placed a courtesan in her husband's courtyard, yes. That woman took silver but no man. How much did you pay her, that she entered the household, killed a concubine, and slipped away untouched? And what of the pouch of medicine you gave the bedchamber maid? Was it to ensure a child remained, to serve as a future shield? Well played. Your abacus smashes squarely into my face. Her brow lifted slightly, she raised the cup, drained it, and replied coolly. I am cleverer than you. I need not soil my own hands. I burst out laughing. Jiang Yu. At last, you've truly stood firm in the inner court. No longer the fallen general's daughter, poisoned and cut down by scheming concubines. Now, you can wield daggers sharper than any spear. After the bone-scraping ordeal, Lu Luo slowly began to recover. After all, I had ceased adding the rot-inducing drug that bred maggots in his wounds. But life's pain is never limited to the flesh. I turned, drawing both children before me, and asked softly. News from the palace has arrived. Out of respect for your grandfather, who fought a lifetime on the battlefield before succumbing to old wounds, the throne has granted Lu family 2 places. You may enter the palace to study alongside princes and princesses. I have only you 2, no rivals to fight over it. But I will not decide for you, you must tell me your hearts. Lu Qinghuan, her hair bound in 2 tiny knots, glanced at her brother, then pouted. If we enter the palace, we won't see mother anymore. What is good about that? I stroked her head, smiling tenderly. Even if you cannot see me, in the palace you will find the best tutors, the wisest minds, and the broadest learning. But if Qinghuan cannot bear to leave me, then there is no need to force yourself. The child bit her lip, eyes flicking to her brother. Lu Jiji, though only 6, already carried gravity in his gaze. He pondered, then spoke solemnly. Grandfather once said, if poor, preserve integrity, if honored, serve the world. I am poor in wisdom now, narrow in sight. But I wish to be a great hero like grandfather, to stand beneath the heavens, bleeding for the realm. Therefore, I am willing to study, to broaden my mind. I was struck dumb. Grandfather had died when he was but 3 years old. How could he know such words? His eyes softened, resting on Jiang Yu. It was Aunt who told me. She said never to forget the family's teaching, to be a man who bears the sky upon his head and the earth beneath his feet. Tears stung my eyes. My son bore ambition, the same fire as his forebear. He could have been a pillar of the nation. Yet in my past life, he had been twisted into a wastrel, dying nameless in a dark alley, his body left to rot. If grandfather had seen him now, he would surely have lifted his thumb in pride. Jiang Yu sighed, voice tinged with regret. The Lu siblings were ruined under the old matron's hand. You and I, we betrayed the general's favor. But your son remembers his forefather's words. That alone allows the general to smile in the afterlife. See. Raised at his side, even a child's vision reaches beyond measure. We turned toward the general's memorial tablet, eyes red, hearts heavy. He had been father, brother, mentor, and elder all in one, dragging us from darkness, striving to carve us a brighter path. Now, at last, we understood. Within 2 months, every last confidant of my husband and mother-in-law was swept away. By the time Lu Luo could drag himself from his sickbed, the entire Lu household lay in my palm. Including the letters he had exchanged with Lu Yutong. Each line reeked of yearning. Lu Luo had sworn in ink that between us there had never been true husband and wife, never shared bed or pillow. His body and his heart belonged to his cousin alone. Lu Yutong matched him stroke for stroke, swearing she would rather shave her head in a convent than wed another. Worse, she urged him. Slip poison into the children's food. When she grows weary from tending them, strike, kill her, and free us both. To soothe my anger, to clear away obstacles, she wrote. They are but two brats. If you wish, I can bear you as many as you desire. But those birthed by that wretch must never surpass my own. If you love me, you must not show mercy. And my good husband, generous as ever, tucked 1,000 tails into the folds of his letter, just to please his beauty. A pity for them. Once such things passed into my hands, nothing remained. I smiled faintly and gave my order. Find a scribe. Copy their letters stroke for stroke. Forge a reply, summon them both to Woolly Pavilion, on the 15th day of the 9th month, at noon. Jiangyu frowned, puzzled. Why wait until next month? My lips curled slyly. Because that day is their day of death. In my past life, even while trapped at Mount Fanine, I heard the tale. On the mid-autumn full moon, at Woolly Pavilion outside the capital, a band of brigands gathered. They raided 2 banks, but were slaughtered by soldiers in an ambush. This time, the first people they met were those 2. Lu Luo had some martial skill. If it were only himself, he might have escaped. But to save Lu Yutong, that was harder than climbing to heaven. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. His so-called vow of eternal devotion, tested by the edge of death. For a selfish man, the only loyalty is to his own life. Before the brigands could storm the city, they were cut down by troops. Soldiers Jiang Yu had secretly alerted through an old general she trusted. When we arrived at Woolly Pavilion, Lu Luo was sprawled in a muddy ditch. Both knees shattered. His body smeared with filth, looking like a stray dog, wretched beyond words. When the bandits first clashed with him, he lasted only a few moves before crumbling. But they hadn't come for him. What they wanted was Lu Yutong. And so, to save his own skin, he delivered her with his own hands. The very cousin he swore was his only true love. They set their price. Cut off one arm yourself, and we'll spare your woman. He refused. Dragged screaming into the forest, Lu Yutong shrieked in despair. Lu Luo. You spineless coward. You'll never die well. If you care nothing for me, what of the child in my belly? Will you abandon even your own blood? Lu Luo froze in terror. But he knelt there, unmoving. Without hesitation, without remorse. Her screams went on and on. Until, at last, she died a wretched death among the trees. Her beauty ruined, her reputation forever stained. The bandits spared Lu Luo's life, only to destroy it. Blade after blade smashed into his knees, shattering bone to dust. Coward. Cripple. Never stand again in this life. When he crawled back to the household, Lu Luo spun his tail, twisting black to white. I was drunk with my cousin, nothing more. But she tried to extort me, threatening scandal. That child in her belly, whose was it? Who can say? Yet she insisted it was mine. She demanded 10,000 taels at Woolly Pavilion. I went, only to be ambushed by thieves. She refused to surrender her silver, so they killed her, and maimed me. That vile woman brought disaster upon us both. Thankfully, she is dead. Otherwise, who knows how much more harm she would cause. If only Lu Yutong had known that all her schemes, all her hopes, all her lifelong plotting were placed on the wrong man. What would she have felt then? Whispers spread through the estate that Lu Luo defied his mother's dying wish, refused to sever ties with his cousin, and so was cursed, struck cripple at the knees. More and more people scorned him, mocking Lu Luo as nothing but a useless cripple. Even when he lay gravely ill, bedridden, not a single soul bothered to visit. The world looked down on him, yet Lu Luo acted blind, clinging to his own lies, murmuring them to himself day after day, until even he began to believe them. Soon, his temper turned on me. I was framed. Why must you keep this in your heart? Now that my legs are ruined? Why don't you hurry and fetch a skilled physician? You can't tell me there isn't one in all the realm. Very well. I brought him a sorcerer. The bones were already shattered. Break them again. Let venomous worms gnaw through the rotting flesh, so new sinew and marrow might grow. Day after day, bones smashed, worms raised. 49 days without cease. His screams echoed from the courtyard unending. Yet the household, long disgusted, wouldn't even spare him a glance. Within 5 days, he was so mangled he scarcely looked human. Then at last, he whimpered. Su Tang, enough. The imperial physicians have said my legs will never mend. Why torment me further? I only wish to fight for our children's future. But surely you won't let me suffer like this. Excuses. Always excuses. From the marrow of his bones, Luluo was a liar. Still, I nodded gently. You want to play the patient? Very well. You'll be left to your own fate. I slipped a talisman into Jiang Yu's sleeve, my smile cold. Your husband was ruined by that courtesan. Stripped of heirs, cheated of silver. A laughingstock of Jinling. Now you return to pick through the wreckage. Go, then. None are better at salvaging scraps than you. She only shook her head and pulled me into a fierce embrace. So tight it hurt. Live well. Wait for me. When I return, we'll weave grasshoppers together again. Weaving grasshoppers, my father had taught me that. He said if one wove 1,000, it could bring the dead back to life. When he died, I sat on the Liu family's steps, weaving 3,000. But he never came home. So Jiang Yu had always known what lay hidden in my heart. But she never guessed. The courtesan sent into her husband's bed was one I had chosen carefully for her. I had been reborn. How could I allow her to sink into the same mire again? Winter snow fell thick around Hushin Pavilion. A scene of perfect grace. Inside, the braziers glowed. And 4 delicate boys attended me. One massaged my feet. One kneaded my shoulders. One fed me sweet cakes. And one sang and made me laugh. Their laughter rose and fell in harmony. And wrapped in my cloak, I laughed until my sides ached. Lifting my head, I saw Lu Luo, furious, wheeling his chair toward me. His lips moved, spitting curses about a wife's duty. But in his rage, he failed to watch the path. Straight into the frozen ditch he plunged. I tilted my head, asking idly. Did you hear anything? The 4 shook their heads as one. No, madam. Ah, then I must have imagined it. The wind howls too loud. Come, the rooms are warmer. With a kiss for each of them, I leaned into their arms and returned to my chambers. Lu Luo lay stiff beneath the ice-cold water for hours, until a maid, gathering snow to boil tea, happened upon him nearly frozen to death. After frantic effort, he revived. The very next day, he stormed into the clan head's hall, accusing me of adultery, demanding I be drowned to preserve family honor. The clan head's eyes widened in shock. The room fell into uneasy silence. When did this happen? This very afternoon. At Hushin Pavilion. She was entwined with 4 men, laughing shamelessly. The chamber grew heavy, no one daring a word. Search her quarters at once. For strange men cannot vanish without a trace. Find them. His eyes burned blood red, filled with hatred so deep he nearly tore me apart with his gaze. Until the clan head's wife spoke, her voice cold as steel. But at that very hour, Ji Su Tang was with us at the Marquis' estate, congratulating the old madam on her birthday. We only returned not long ago. One sentence, heavy as a hammer, smashed through Lu Luo's last thread of reason. He screamed, "Impossible." He accused everyone of being in league with me, of taking bribes to protect me. He thrashed like a madman, toppling from his chair, crawling across the floor, clutching the clan head's robes with filthy hands. "Master, do justice for me. Kill her. Kill her now. She's a demon that crawled out of a well, beguiling men's hearts. She cannot be allowed to live." Only then did the others realize. Lu Luo had gone mad. With a single subtle nod from the clan head, I had him locked away in the remote rear courtyard, forbidden to show his face lest he shame the family before guests. Yet even then, he still had some pitiful cunning left. He crawled through the dog hole. Was carried by a kind passerby to the yamen. And there beat the grievance drum, accusing me of adultery, bribery, and plotting to seize his family wealth. When I was summoned to the court, a crowd of clan members followed, eager to watch. The magistrate struck the wooden block and barked, "Do you confess?" I let my eyes drift over Lu Luo, sprawled on the ground like a mangy beast, hair disheveled. Then feigned hesitation. "Of course not. If he accuses me of adultery and murder, then let him produce evidence." Lu Luo shrieked. "Ask the servants. Ask the gatekeepers. Call the elders, they know the truth." But one by one, every witness denied him. No proof, no testimony, nothing. The clan head's brow furrowed as he declared. "My nephew is insane. We feared he might harm an honored guest, so we confined him in the back. This so-called adultery is but the ravings of a lunatic." On the day in question, Lady Ji and the women of the clan were with us at the Marquis' estate from start to finish. And as for the handsome young attendants, I personally checked the gate records, no outsiders entered. The servants and maids can all testify. Silenced, Lu Luo roared like a beast, then lunged at me, hands outstretched to choke the life from my throat. A single staff blow from the bailiff sent him sprawling, motionless, barely breathing. In the end, Lu Luo was punished for disturbing the court. Beaten and cast back to his household. This time, he brought nothing but disgrace to the clan. The clan head's disappointment ran bone deep. No one cared for him anymore. All wished only for his death, to free the family from shame. At last, I allowed myself a smile. Now, even if I crushed the breath from his chest, no one would raise a voice in his defense. Because no one believes the words of a madman. And no one bothers to seek justice for a madman's death. I laughed softly, while Xiao Man curled her lips in a cold smile. Well, did this servant play the young mistress well enough? Not just me, the other sisters played the handsome boys perfectly, enough to fool him completely. And thanks to Miss Jiang, for painting our faces so finely. As Lu Luo howled like a beast in a trap, I seized his jaw, forcing it open, and poured a full bowl of gunpowder down his throat. Now, no cries to heaven. No pleas to earth. Let him taste what it is to choke on silence. In my past life, I endured endless torment. In this life, it was his turn to taste it. He was shut into a sealed wooden chamber, no light seeping through. Nothing inside but a single narrow bed. Day after day, he was fed leftovers. Unable to tell night from day, trapped in eternal confinement. Even the sane would go mad. And Lu Luo, half mad already, spiraled quickly into ruin. Xiao Man reported. His cell is fouled with filth and stench. Sometimes he giggles like a fool, sometimes sobs like a child. When the madness comes, he shrieks. Ji Su Tang is a demon. She crawled up from a dry well. She came to take revenge, revenge. Then he slams his skull against the wall. He babbles, Yutong, where is Yutong? I did nothing wrong to you. It was you. You refused to hand over the silver. It was your fault. All your fault. At last, he gnawed his own flesh. Blood-soaking, bone-glistening white. Even Xiao Man recoiled, unable to look upon him. That was his retribution. If she could not bear the sight, so be it. Sooner or later, he would die anyway. We had more important matters. And that was to bring Jiangyu home. Word spread, her mother-in-law had taken her husband to a country estate to rest and recover. But the servants there set the place aflame, burning them into ash, not a bone left whole. That servant had once been crippled by her mother-in-law's cruelty. His family starved and sold. He had waited years for vengeance. And at last, he had it. Riding in the carriage, I smiled faintly. How could I free only myself? Of course I had to rescue you too. Jiangyu smiled, dimples softening her face. They went to the estate for treatment. There were 20 women prepared, every type of beauty ready. But wine and lust became a road straight to the yellow springs. They dug their own graves. Dug their own graves. I echoed softly. But I knew. The physician had been one I sought for months. And the servant who lit the fire. He had already taken my silver and fled far away. She lived upright, spending every scheme to guard her family, to guard the realm. Then let me, in place of the late general, guard her. In the warm spring month of March, we sat together by a stream, listening to the water murmur. Xiao Man approached with news. Lu Luo is dead. The dark cell took him. I smiled, tears slipping silently down. Jiangyu. I'm not so bad after all, am I? She looked at me and murmured. As long as we are alive, none of us are bad. When my son reached 15, war erupted at the border. He donned his grandfather's silver armor, took up the long spear, and marched to the battlefield beside Jiangyu. The day he left, snow blanketed the earth. I asked if he had any last words for his mother. His gaze was steady, as firm as his forebears. Though my wisdom is shallow. When the time comes to stand for the people and the land, I must step forward, as grandfather once did. Do not fear if I return wrapped in a horsehide. The meaning of life is to give all for what is right. Aunt has done so, your son will too. In time, he grew ever more like his grandfather, bearing the weight and spirit of a soldier's line. Jiangyu smiled through tears, waving to me. At last, we have not failed the general, have we? I nodded. Of course not. Most of all, we have not failed ourselves. The end.